Joining us now on Radio Row here at the 2017 ACC football kickoff from Raycom and the ACC Network, Stan Norfleet. Stan, welcome to the Carolina Sports Network. Glad to have you, a former Independence High
Big Eye
football standout and a Virginia Wahoo. You got to be loving ACC kickoff.
It's nothing like it for me. I was joking with someone earlier. I was like, once LeBron is done doing whatever he's going to do, I go to sleep. I'm in hibernation for about 2 months. And this, for me, is the event that kind of gets my blood back going, like, all right, it's upon us. But, yeah, man, shout out to those that know about Independence High School. We had a nice run. Virginia, we're down, but maybe, fingers crossed, Bronco will get us back.
Independence High School, how often do you go back there?
You know what? Shamefully, because I'm always working during the season. We have production meetings on Friday evenings before the show, so I miss a lot of high school football. I also do radio in Atlanta on the weekends in 92.9, so I'm trying to cushion the blow. I don't go back as much as I should, but I have been back to speak to those guys, and I wish them nothing but the best over there.
Now, you work with Tommy Bowden on the pregame show.
As well as Katie Witham, yeah.
Katie Witham. Talk a little bit about what you guys do, when you go on, and what are some of the things that you guys do on the show.
Gotcha. So we're every regular week, so we don't do the bowl games, but every regular week in the college football season, we're the pregame to the ACC game of the week. So it's a nationally syndicated program, 88 million households countrywide. And Tommy and I sit up there, and I call him Tommy B. I think Bowden, I think about his dad, so it's tough for me to call him Coach Bowden. It just makes me feel different. So Tommy B, we talk ball, man, and we go through the whole conference, and whatever that week's matchups are, we talk through all of them, and Katie moderates the two of us going back and forth.
People can say what they want as far as watching you, what they think your chemistry is, but what do you guys think your chemistry is like from your spec? Because you're a former player, he's a former coach, and that's an interesting dynamic to have up there. Like, do you think that flows well on TV? I mean, I think it's good. We think it's good, but do you guys think it's a good flow?
Well, the ratings say that the people seem to like it. You know, the ratings have this will be my second full season. So the ratings are trending in the right direction. We know what's going to happen in 2019, and we'll see what that means for me and Coach. But the thing that I love working with Katie and with Coach specifically, as you asked, Coach is so comfortable being who he is. He's been ACC Coach of the Year. He's forgotten more. He's forgotten more football than I will ever know, and he's comfortable with his legacy. So there's no, hey, young guy, get off my yawn type of thing. And I'm a football traditionalist. So I'm all about the old school and paying homage to those that came before me. So it just works. I'm very candid. He's very reserved but candid on certain topics. So our personalities work, I think.
People smack talk all the time. We do it all the time on our show,
right.
You know, going back and forth. How often does he talk smack to you? You know, he coached at Clemson.
Yeah.
You went to Virginia.
Yeah.
Does that come up a lot? I'm not saying necessarily on air, but off air. How much are you reminded that you were a Cavalier and that he was a Tiger? Like, I mean, does that come up?
It doesn't come up in that capacity. Like, Virginia was bad last year, so he would get on me. You guys stink. I would say, yeah, Coach, you're right. But then, for example, whenever Wake Forest plays Clemson, he always says, losing to Wake Forest is why I'm sitting here with you. If I had beaten Wake Forest, I might still be employed by the Tigers, and who knows what that looks like. So, and what's interesting, though, Coach Bowden won ACC Coach of the Year his first year in the conference, 1999, while I was a true freshman under legendary coach George Welsh in Charlottesville. So I just find it interesting that we came in together at the same time, and yet we still have our different vantage points. But he doesn't get on me too bad, and I'm so respectful of him and his father and what the family has done that we don't do much of that.
Stan Norfleet from the ACC Network joining us here at ACC 2017 Football Kickoff on Radio Row here at the Carolina Sports Network. For years, we've heard about the SEC, how great it is, the best conference in America. If you don't play in the SEC, you don't play football.
Why lace them up? Yeah.
But here we are, 2017, and the best football conference, or at least the best team in the nation, hails from the ACC. And they've got some pretty good teams from top to bottom coming into this season.
I've been sharing this with people. Again, I'm down in Atlanta on a regular basis, and I've been sharing this with people for the last couple of years. Not just if you look at the talent that's going to the NFL, the ACC is always just behind the SEC in terms of draftable players. But if you go look at head-to-head, last 3 years, ACC versus SEC, the record is like 19-13. ACC's favor. it is without a shadow of a doubt that the ACC, because of quarterbacks and coaching, has caught the SEC top to bottom. The SEC people don't want to hear that, but essentially they've got Alabama. In some years they've got LSU, and it's everybody else. Georgia has been underwhelming. Tennessee has been underwhelming. Florida under Muschamp has been competitive. But I'd say outside of about 3, maybe 4 teams over there, I put our squad up against their squads any day of the week.
Do you think part of it too is like when these guys talk about like the SEC being better than the ACC, that you get dogged on because you have teams like Duke and Wake Forest
and Virginia.
Yeah, and Virginia. I wasn't going to say that.
It hurts me to say it, but it's true.
They lose to other teams. Like Clemson outside of the last couple of years has been a joke for a little while too in the ACC, and they've turned it around. And I feel like that's one of the knocks with the ACC is because Clemson is now the national champion. They still don't get credit though because people go back on what happened
and pull
5 years
Clemson.
ago.
Yeah. Remember the years when they lost in the bowl game? It's like, you're gonna pull a Clemson.
That's what we used to say. You're Clemsoning. Like that. We used to say it all the time on the air, even when I was doing local radio here in Charlotte. Listen, I think Clemson and what Dabo has done, and I said it to him when we have him on Raycom stuff, I have nothing but respect for what he has. He has catapulted Clemson into legitimate,
they reload every year now.
They're the real deal now.
Yeah.
I mean, they are doing it the right way. What this conference really needs, though, they need some consistency at a high level in the Coastal. They need Virginia Tech or Chapel Hill or Miami to consistently be ranked top 20, top 15, top 10 maybe, and go from that way.
You bringing up Miami, do you find it? Where do you see Miami going now? Because they were a team when they came from the Big East to the ACC. It was supposed to be them, Florida State every year.
That was the whole point.
That was the whole big deal. That was what they was building around, and it's never been that way. Now, there was a couple years there where they had the chance, but then obviously ineligibility kept them away. But do you see Miami with what Mark Richt's doing down there, like maybe them getting back to being, like you said, maybe at the top, a consistent top 10 team, maybe?
I don't know that they'll ever get back to where they were as the U. Like when I was playing in the late 90s and early 2000s, I don't know that they'll be that again. But I do think there's a world, starting this year, really. I picked Miami to come out of the Coastal. I think we finally get it this year with Florida State versus Miami here in Charlotte for the whole thing. Mark Richt has got some holes at quarterback. I think Kaya should have stayed. I think if he had it to do over again, he would have stayed. I just think Kaya had fatigue. 3 coordinators in 4 years. I just think his brain was fried, confidence. But Miami, defensively, front 7, running back Mark Walton, Ahmad Richards on the outside at the wide receiver. They've got another athletic tight end, even though Joku was a first-round pick just a few months ago. They've got more of the stuff that I think it takes to be consistent and solid. They've got an indoor facility that's coming because of donation by Coach Richt personally. And so people are kind of rallying behind that. I was just with Michael Irvin in Atlanta 2 weeks ago. Mike loves it. The former players of the U are behind it. I think Richt can get them up into consistently maybe top 20, top 15. And then from there, it's who's the next guy, and that's what I don't know.
From a former player's look, how does that look when you see a coach like Mark Richt donate his money, personal money, to build something, to make something better? Like, what kind of statement does that make? I mean, obviously, to us, it looks like you're making a statement that I want to be here for the next amount of certain years. But what is that if you were a player going back in time? Is that something? What is that?
Yeah. It speaks volumes to leadership, right? Players want to be coached. Men, in organized activities, you have it's almost an innate desire to be led. And when you see a guy demonstrate that on the field, but then also to be doing that off the field, at his alma mater, with his personal resources, I got to respect that. So it does make you go play. Like, it's like, all right, we got the right guy, man in the ship, El Capitan, I'm cool with that. So it does a lot. It really does.
ACC's got the defending, reigning national champion in Clemson. Who do you see in the conference, Louisville, Florida State, that can challenge them this year to get out of conference?
Who can challenge Clemson? Well, I'm picking Florida State right now to win the whole thing, so I'm going to start with Florida State. Louisville, I have so much respect for the football coach that Petrino is, Coach Bob. But I just think when you start going down the list of what they've lost, Hicatini at tight end and I'm losing the name, Staples and Quick and some of those guys, and defensively losing Kelsey, that's just a lot to lose. And Lamar Jackson got beat up. I mean, you saw him wear down at the end of the year. And I think largely because of that offensive line was in flux. They bring in the offensive line coach from Florida to try and stabilize that unit. They've got some JUCO guys on the way as well. So I can't put Louisville up there just yet. If Florida State doesn't beat Clemson, we'll see Clemson right back in the championship game again. Likely headed to the college football playoff. But I'm sold on what Florida State is doing. I picked them last year and Derwin James got hurt. So we'll see if that comes to fruition this year.
Now, I went to Syracuse way back when. Actually, they're honoring their undefeated team that I got to cover when I was a senior from 1987, the Don McPherson team, Darryl Johnson. How important for the ACC is it for Syracuse, Boston College, your team, Virginia Wake Forest, to get back to a 7-8 win a season caliber, to at least be in a bowl mix every year, to really bring this conference to the next level?
Yeah, and I think, right, look at the coach, the new hires in this conference. We just got through talking about Mark Richt. Dino Babers at Syracuse. Clawson is in his third year at Wake, maybe. Went to a bowl game last year.
Actually, it's his fourth
year, okay. So he's just now getting a full class through, and we're seeing some of the products of that. Bronco Mendenhall at UVA just got there. I think the commitment from these programs finally to get real head, all due respect to, I played for Al Groh, I played for legendary Coach Welsh, but conference-wide, you're seeing a commitment to coaches taking it to the next level, and I think that's the key. And if we can do that, if we can bring that bottom tier up to maybe being a game off of 500, then I think there's no way anybody in the country can tell us that this isn't the best football in America.
Go back to earlier, you said you think Florida State's the best team, you think they're going to win it. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Do you think they're going to win the national championship? Do you think that's a possibility?
It is a possibility. I do think Florida State loses week 1 in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta to Alabama. I just trust you give Nick Saban an entire offseason to prepare for you. As long as you're not an NFL team, he's going to beat you. He's 10-0 at Alabama in home openers. They've played in some very big games. We saw last year what they did to USC. Granted, that was a different USC team at the beginning of the year than it was at the end. But by and large, man, I think Florida State will be there at the end. If you ask me right now, Stan, is Florida State beating Miami? In tight games, I come down to two things, coaching and quarterbacks. And Florida State has the better duo.
That leads me up to my follow-up, and I know we'll make a real quick statement. Our video intern here to the right, he's a big diehard Florida State fan. You just ruined his life now by saying to lose to Alabama.
Yeah.
But do you think there's a chance that for the second straight year, the national champion and the Heisman winner can both come from the ACC?
Ooh. So what you're really asking me is Lamar Jackson going to win the Heisman again? I don't think so. It's just tough. Right, it's only been done once in the history of this thing.
Archie Griffin,
Ohio State.
74-75.
Right? So that's going to be tough. So if I were a betting man, which I'm not, I would say Lamar's probably not going to win the Heisman. As far as a national champion, right, can Clemson or Florida State or perhaps Miami win the whole thing? Quarterback issues in Miami, quarterback issues at Clemson, lost a ton of offensive production at Clemson. I would say if it's not Florida State, it won't be anybody else in the conference.
Last one, we're talking with Stan Norfleet of the ACC Network. One of my pet peeves at the end of the year, you got to fill out all these bowl games, and with all these weird names that we never have heard of before.
Popeyes Bowl.
What do you think of only needing 6 wins to be a bowl team? As a former player, do you really think that you're being rewarded at 6-6 going to a bowl game? When if you lose, you had a losing record?
Yeah, guys hate ties. We compete. It's in your blood. I can handle losing, but I need to be able to compete. It would be heartbreaking if you get one of these schools, you're 6-6 and that's it. Like you got a whole off season, you were average. Like at least if I'm below average, I know I got more work to do. I don't want to be below average. Like don't keep me in this purgatory. And if we go play a bowl game at 6-6, those are extra practices. So if I'm on the team and I'm not a starter, those are more opportunities to get in front of coach and get in front of competitive situations that I can earn me a spot next year. And if I'm going to be trying to play on Sunday, which most of us want to do, bowl season is when a lot of those scouts go, okay, let's see you outside your conference. Let's see you against somebody else, a different style of play, and let's see how you play in those environments. So I'm all for it. The ratings are there, even for those no-name bowl games. I just think it would be a travesty to send a team home 6-6, and that's it.
Who hoists the trophy on January 8th in Atlanta?
The whole thing?
The trophy, January 8th in Atlanta.
Now don't give our intern a heart attack over here.
And then we'll let you out of here. You've been great.
Listen, man, off the top, and I respect Big Ten. Penn State's going to be very good. Ohio State's going to be very good. Michigan is going to be right there. Sam Darnold and what they did at Southern Cal, phenomenal. It's hard for me. It's just like watching the Super Bowl. I kept telling people in the bar I was at, I want you to remember that's Belichick and Brady over there. Well, I want everybody to remember that's Jalen Hurts and Nick Saban over there. So if you had to put my feet to the fire today, I'd say Alabama.
Stan Norfleet, great job. We will look forward to watching you throughout the year on the ACC network, Raycom, and go Wahoos, my friend.
Let's hopefully. I'd love to be one of those 6-6 years. 6 years, me. I'm gonna be hoisting the trophy because I think we won it. So thank you guys for having me.